Hi, I'm Andrew Fleming, a reporter with the Vancouver Courier, and I'm sitting here today with my esteemed colleague, Niamh O'Connor. Niamh, it rhymes with Steve. As regular readers know, or perhaps even regular viewers of this show will know, every couple of weeks, the Courier does a focus on a different Vancouver neighborhood. And this past week, or the last week, I guess, was the Oak Ridge neighborhood. For those who don't know, Oak Ridge is an area of town. It's sort of south of the main part of town. It goes from 41st to 57th.
Between Granville and Ontario streets.
Okay. And this is kind of one of the newer neighborhoods in the city, one of the most recent to be developed. Is that right?
Right. It's one of the last pieces of the original CPR land grant. So it was bush until around the 50s, started being developed in the late 50s and 60s. And so it's mostly residential with a few notable developments like the Jewish Community Center on 41st and Oak, the Langara College near 57th and down that way, and of course the Langara Golf Course. But otherwise it's really largely residential, although that is soon to change, I'm sure.
Yeah, for those who don't know, there's a huge development sort of on the horizon, literally on the horizon, come to think of it. The Oak Ridge Mall, which was sort of the first main big development, I guess they built that in about the 50s?
I think 1959.
Okay, 1959. That was where Rick Hansen started off on his big Man in Motion Around the World tour and ended up again. Anyway, they want to just completely build a bigger, faster, stronger development. I'm being a bit facetious, but it's a huge development looming on the horizon. How many towers is it again?
The proposal, I believe, is for 13 towers, the highest of which could be up to 45 stories. So that is obviously a lot of towers. The mall size would be doubled. There'd be more area for businesses, and there would be a rooftop open area for the public on the mall. But it's just a massive development that would create about 2,800 units, so you're bringing probably at least 5,000 more people in. And, some of the neighbors not so happy with it. They're quite happy with the single-family residential area, quiet, low-key, and obviously when you turn such an underdeveloped space, into 13 towers, it's going to completely change that corner of Vancouver.
Now, speaking of some of the residences there in the neighborhood, again, it's primarily single-family detached homes. One of the features we have in these neighborhood features, we have something we call open house. And every time we go to a different neighborhood, we have a different, some sort of dwelling and who lives there, because people are kind of curious, who lives here? And the one you did, I guess, got one of the biggest hits on our website in a while. It was about a house with a tiki bar. Oh.
Well, it was a beautiful house. I was looking for the open houses on the MLS, and I found this one, and I picked it because it was custom built and still owned by the same family. And it was a beautiful rancher at about 52nd and Tisdale. Just a beautiful, very, very well-kept house, somewhat dated, but the lawn was beautiful. The inside is beautiful, very spacious. And, of course, the interesting aspect with things like the tiki bar in the basement, so it made it very appealing. But it was listed for $1.9 million. And by the time we came out, it had actually sold for $1.73 million. And so we got a lot of comments about it on our Facebook page because a lot of people are imagining it's going to be knocked down, which would be quite a shame because most people can't even imagine being able to buy a house as nice as that.
It does seem a shame. A lot of people speculate, have these beautiful old homes and people are just going to knock them down and, build these giant monster homes. And it seems kind of cruel to say that, but it does, there's a record of that happening. I mean, they're probably, some of the people are probably not wrong to suggest that could happen.
Well, I spoke to Michael Kluckner, who's a local history writer in Vancouver, and just talking about Oak Ridge in general, and he mentioned that he doesn't recall a neighborhood in Vancouver where the turnover of houses has happened more quickly, because a lot of these houses weren't built until like the 60s and 70s, and they've already been knocked down and rebuilt again. Which, we've got obviously 100-year-old houses in Vancouver that are still standing. And
That's another one of the things we have is this Now and Then feature where we'll send a photographer Dan Toolgate out. He loves doing this, I'm sure. We track down various locations of old archival photos, and you'll have this photo of a house being going up in, say, the 40s. And then so we'll listen and go, what does it look like now? And it looks completely different because it's a completely different house. That's our office manager, June, you can hear in the background there. Hopefully the sound will pick that up. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling a bit, but... another thing that's interesting about this neighborhood is one of the kind of the more, a lot of Jewish people live in the Oak Ridge neighborhood. It's the home of the Norman Rothstein Center and the theater, and also a kosher deli, which I believe you visited.
Really, I did, and it's on Canby, right across from Oak Ridge Mall, actually. From its large picture window, you can see the entrance to the Gap. store in the exterior. And it's quite a lovely little deli owned by a man named Epi Rappaport. It's called Omnitsky Deli, which is actually named for the deli originated in Winnipeg, and the former owner in Winnipeg was named Omnitsky, so that's why he called it that. But it's a lovely little place, unassuming. They serve food, they sell groceries, you can eat in, but it's all kosher. So it's a destination location for some of the Jewish community in Vancouver. He says about 75% of his clientele are Jewish, but about 25% aren't. So they come in for various reasons. You know, they like the quality of kosher food. They want to eat kosher for their own religious reasons, such as Seventh-day Adventists, or they're just they like to go in for some of the unusual foods he has.
It occurs to me, did you happen to notice they had bagels there? I'm from Montreal, and it's really hard to find a decent bagel in the city. Did they happen to have a decent one there?
Well, I did see them on the bread shelf, but I can't attest to the quality as I didn't have one.
Well, that's fair enough. I will have to go seek it out.
But you can get a smoked meat sandwich, so.
Oh, all right. Well, I think maybe I'll head there, check it out myself. But anyway, our Michael Kissinger, our entertainment editor, he also shoots a number of videos for these neighborhood special features, and I believe he has one about this very subject right now. So let's cut to it.
My name is Ephraim Epi Rappaport, and we're at Omnitsky Kosher Delicatessen, 5866 Cambie Street, Vancouver, British Columbia. We carry exclusively 100% certified kosher products. Fresh raw meats, fresh raw poultry, fresh delicatessen, which we manufacture ourselves. I'm not a rabbi, you gotta understand, but kosher goes all the way back to the days of the Old Testament. And there are guidelines within the Old Testament saying certain foods you're allowed to eat, certain foods you're not allowed to eat.
Well, my name is Rabbi Mendel Friedman. In the past, I was working as a mashgiach, which in Hebrew means a supervisor, which we supervise the kosher standard of the store. The word kosher actually means fit, right? So in other words, all the food that we consume as Jewish people have to be fitting to a certain standard. The standard is as outlined in the Bible. One of the laws of kosher is that milk and meat cannot be mixed together, cannot be cooked together, and cannot be eaten together. So that's one of the concerns. We have to come in and check whether there's milk within the same vicinity as the meat.
Religious Jews will wait up to 6 hours in between eating dairy after meat, and others will wait only 3 hours.
In addition, the meat all has to be kosher. Kosher meat means that it was slaughtered by a kosher slaughterer and that it was salted properly based on all the laws of how we slaughter kosher animals.
So split hoofs and choose its cut, or multiple stomachs, is a priority for an animal. And a fish needs fins and gills, so no shellfish, no scavenger fish.
People have this misconception that kosher food means that a rabbi blessed the food, which is not true. A rabbi doesn't have to bless kosher food. Kosher food just has to be kept, has to be regulated based on the kosher dietary laws. An establishment like this, because it's a restaurant also, so it gets inspected twice or 3 times a day. So the supervisor comes in and makes sure that it's keeping up the standard.
Plus, I have on staff at both manufacturing and retail here, from beginning till closing, a observant Jew, a strictly observant Jew at all times. Someone who's very, very familiar with all the laws and customs, and someone who abides by them as well. And they're also responsible to make sure that I do everything by the book.
Well, the kosher in general, kosher laws in general, is very, very large and very complex. A lot of details. What I said here is just a tip of the iceberg. If you would like to learn and study about it, today we have Google. You Google the word kosher, and there's an infinite amount of information that you can learn and study about the meaning of kosher and how it applies to us.